What can I tell you after such a lecture by Prof. Ruth Gabizon, who always astounds me? I think that it was very important for the national security. This is a basic concept in the leading perceptions of our institutions, international, broad national aspect with all the implications, moral, practical, that were mentioned by Ruthie Gabizon, and thank you very much for that. We're going to move over, because there's a direct link between what has been discussed so far by Ruthie and the next topic. Allow me to call upon Dr. Anat Kurz. I hope that she's here. Very, very close by. Come closer, come closer. She's Director of Researches of the INSS, and she'll be chairing now this session. Dedicated. It's going to be complex, and please manage it in a way that we'll be able to end on time. Good afternoon. Linking up directly to what Mayor has said here, namely, he quoted Gilad's share concerning the lecture by Ruth Gabizon. During the day, actually as of yesterday in the afternoon, throughout the sessions, all the lectures, all debates we've had here, we could see a leitmotif of the Israeli-Palestinian item, the conflict, with emphasis on the need to generate some kind of a breakthrough, change the current situation, do something in order to mitigate the negative implications in practice of this unsolved, very complex conflict. And I thought a lot about those things. It seemed to me that there was no way to evade the reference and accept it, but it seems that if we move or cross over the fence of this beautiful garden, feeling is going to differ a bit. The public debate, the current public debate regarding the existence of the conflict, what's called the status quo, which is not as such, it's a rather dynamic status quo, is more quiet than could be expected. Surely it is much less stormy and not so close to the top of the priorities of Israeli agenda compared to past years. And the best indication, I believe, is that this topic was not leading statements or not led to statements said in order to drag voters during recent electoral campaign in the state of Israel, and not that exponents of various parties did not mention the need to set in motion the political process. They did it. There is broad consensus that political process should be set in motion, and an understanding that we have to adopt the approach which is not really traditional in certain political echelons, not all of them, that the two-state solution is the solution to strive for. And there's some kind of a gap between thinking in this tent, this podium, and what we can see all around us. One may also mention that in the interesting lecture by Tai Brun, between the theaters, where you may expect some kind of kindling of a sizzling risk, with no mention of the Israeli-Palestinian theater. Maybe it has to do with the fact that there are various challenges on the agenda in the Middle East, keeping busy the public and the leadership here in the region, in the international arena, and Israel diverting attention from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, obviously the events of the Arab Spring and the Iranian threat, which is not disputed, Maybe it has to do with what we call a political freeze. There's no freeze in the field, but the political process is frozen. And maybe it is associated with the fact that even if in the Palestinian community and the Israeli community we do find vast support, significant support statistically for years expressed by the solution of a two-state, we also found significant percentages of mistrust, inability to move in this direction. And if this is the situation, there's no way to reach it, surely not to implement any kind of resolution, and the energies, the motivations, obviously are declining. I would also say, or dare say, that maybe, although it's not very comfortable to say it, that under current circumstances there's some kind of comfort to both parties. And I know that things sound problematic. Let's think about the fact when there's no political process, no commitment to a process, no commitment to reach any decision, historical decision, the moment of truth is deferred, and leadership love to defer moment of truth, and therefore we find ourselves in a situation that may be called some kind of an interim agreement, informally at least, and I'm well aware of the Palestinian sensitivity to the term interim agreement, but we're in a terminal situation because we know that we have to make some progress, namely we are in a certain interim stage. On the other hand, with all the immediate political comfort as to the current situation, there are risks evolving in the territory, escalation of the conflict, a developing trend of weakening of the Israeli declared partner, the official committed partner to an arrangement of two states, the PA, Israel's delegitimation in the region and internationally, and you heard many very important things about it in previous lectures. Namely, this is leading us to the conclusion with which I started, regarding which we have consensus, at least among the speakers, if not all of them, in the conference, that something has to be done. Something must be done. We have to think about some kind of a new strategy, Israeli, active, deliberate strategy that should lead the state of Israel to the ability to devise for itself a more comfortable strategic environment for immediate and surely for the long-term implementation. In this thought, the attempt to hammer out the direction and translate it to operational steps approaching the pathway of changing reality led the working group that has worked here over the last few months in the Institute towards this conference, led by Advocate Gilad Shaer, formulated arguments and recommendations in this direction of how to do something when we know what is at stake in order to reach this change of reality. From this point of view, this is time now to call upon Advocate Gilad Shaer to share with you his thought and the thought and conclusions of this working group. Let me just add a few words. Those who don't know, and very few don't know, Advocate Shaer currently is a senior researcher at the INSS, used to be manager of the Prime Minister's office during Ehud Barak's term, 1999-2001. He was assistant of the chairman of the negotiating team with the Palestinians at the Camp David Summit and Taba talks. Gilad Shaer, the floor is yours.